So I want to ask you guys something.
Do you ever fantasize about being killed?
Are you ready to party? 'Cause it's party time. Welcome back to Carnage Reviews. Today it's all about the brains as we look at the return of the living dead. Before we chow down on this zombie goodness, just a quick reminder to please consider subscribing to the channel. Just click the subscribe button along with the bell icon to be notified when I upload new content. The Return of the Living Dead was directed by Dan O'Bannon, and it stars Clu Gulager, James Karen, and Don Calfa. The movie also features Thorne Matthews, Miguel A. Nunez, and Linnea Quigley. July 3rd, 1984, at the Uneeda Medical Supply Warehouse in Louisville, Kentucky. Frank trains new employee Freddie and shows him around the warehouse. Freddie asks Frank,
"What's the weirdest thing you've ever saw in here?"
This prompts Frank to explain to Freddie how the movie Night of the Living Dead was based on a real case. The dead were brought back to life by a chemical known as trioxin. The Army covered up the incident by putting the body and chemical inside a barrel which mistakenly got shipped to the warehouse, where it now sits in the basement. While showing it to Freddie, Frank mistakenly leaks the chemical out. Meanwhile, Freddie's girlfriend and her misfit friends, who just want to party,
Hey, we gonna party tonight or what?
Yeah, we are gonna party.
Well, where? Where are we gonna party?
wait for Freddie to get out of work at a cemetery that is next door. After waking up and discovering a cadaver and other stuff has been brought back to life by the chemical, Freddie and Frank's boss gets called in, who has the idea to go to the crematorium and burn all the evidence. Little do they know that makes things worse. Way worse. When I first watched The Return of the Living Dead, I watched it back-to-back with the 90s remake of Night of the Living Dead, and since then, it's always been a part of my Halloween movie marathon. The original Night of the Living Dead was written by George Romero and John Russo. When they parted ways in their partnership, Russo retained the rights to use Living Dead in any sequel he would make, and Romero was free to create his own sequel. The Return of the Living Dead was a book written by John Russo and was intended to be a sequel to Night of the Living Dead. When it came to Return of the Living Dead being made into a movie, apparently the original idea that Russo had was that Tobe Hooper was going to direct it and it was going to be shot in 3D. Can you imagine what that would have been like? That would have been interesting. With difficulties in securing funding for the film and Tobe Hooper dropping out of the project, Dan O'Bannon was brought in to polish the script and was also offered directing duties. He accepted on the condition that he could rewrite the script and make it radically different from Romero's movies. I think it's funny how this movie started out as a sequel and then became a parody of the same movie it was meant to be a sequel to. And also, this film became a series of its own. And even though this movie is technically a parody, I like how respectful it is to both Romero and Night of the Living Dead. It acknowledges them in a sort of tribute-like way. The Return of the Living Dead is such a fun movie. It's one of those films where you can just turn off your brain if a zombie didn't eat it already and enjoy the ride. There's just so many funny moments and one-liners.
Hey, these things don't leak, do they?
Leak? Hell no. These things were made by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
Over everything, stupid asshole! Watch your tongue, boy, if you like this job! Like this job?
You said if we destroyed the brain, it'd die.
It worked in the movie!
The cast in the movie is just amazing, especially Freddy's friends. I think my two favorite characters are Spider and Suicide.
What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.
He was all on it, man. And his face was all fucked up, he was face up.
There are some gory moments in this movie, but it doesn't even match the level of gore in Romero's movies, especially in Day of the Dead, which was actually released in theaters around the same time as Return was. And even though it's a horror comedy, there actually are some pretty tense moments. Spoiler warning here, but the scene where Freddy turns into a zombie and is stalking Tina, who's hiding from him, is really suspenseful. Thorne Matthews did a really good job here.
You made me break my hand completely off this time, Tina. But I don't care, darling, because I love you. You've got to let me eat your brain.
You have to admit that the fact that you can't stop the zombies, really there's no way to kill them other than burning them to nothing, is pretty scary, given the fact that we learn that even burning them doesn't really truly stop them.
Why?
The pain.
What about the pain?
the pain of being dead.
There were 4 sequels made to this movie. The second one is pretty forgettable in my opinion. The third one is decent, but it's lacking the charm of the original, and I haven't seen the last 2. If you have, let me know in the comments how they are. And of course, given that we live in a world today that truly lacks any sort of creativity, it was announced in 2023, I think, that a remake of The Return of the Living Dead is coming. And the only thing I have to say about that is, why? My only real criticism of The Return of the Living Dead is that why do some people that get killed by the zombies come back as a zombie, and why do some not? I don't really understand that. Is the virus just picky? I'm guessing it's probably just a plot hole. The Return of the Living Dead is a fun movie. It's good to just sit back and relax to. It is funny as hell too. With horror and comedy, you can mix the two together, but it's really hard to do it effectively. The Return of the Living Dead does it. It does horror and it does comedy well. I think even non-horror fans would like this movie. I give it 5 skulls. Thanks for checking out today's video. If you enjoyed it, please tap that like button. And if you have not done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel. What do you guys think about The Return of the Living Dead and its impending remake? Let me know in the comments. Stay hungry for those brains. Until then, guys, bye-bye.
Dispatch over. Rescue 7, come in. This is dispatch 2. You copy over?
Come in, dispatch. Send more paramedics.